Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Today's big and sad news is a devastating earthquake that has hit Turkey, Syria, and also affected countries nearby this region. In this video of the big news, we'll be discussing details about this earthquake. Why is it so devastating? Why is it that Turkey specifically faces a lot of earthquakes year after year? And how has the international community, specifically India, come out to help the nations in need? Now, if you have been following the news since yesterday, one after the other, in 24 hours, there have been multiple very high magnitude earthquakes that have hit Turkey and Syria, that is a nearby country of Turkey as well. The biggest of these earthquakes was 7.8 on the Richter scale, which is very high. This has even impacted countries which are nearby Turkey and Syria, for example, Cyprus, Lebanon, even Israel and Egypt, that are over 1000 kilometers from Turkey, have been impacted. The epicenter of this earthquake is a Turkish city, that is Gaziantep, that is in the south central part of Turkey. This itself is a city with a very high population. In fact, this is why the devastation has been so high. If the epicenter of these kind of earthquakes is in a far off area which does not have a lot of population, you might see lesser devastation. But when the epicenter itself is in those cities which are highly populated, the numbers of people who lose their lives or get impacted tend to be very high. This is in fact the strongest earthquake to shake this region in about 100 years. It has already killed about 4,500 people across the two countries, and if you believe the experts, this number of people who have been killed will only become higher and higher. If you can see on the map, this is where the epicenter of this very powerful earthquake lied. As you can see, it has impacted almost all of Syria. The impact has even gone to the neighboring countries. A part of Iran, Jordan also would face certain tremors because of this earthquake. Now, as I told you, specifically Turkey has been at the center of multiple earthquakes year after year. In fact, if you look at the official records of the Turkish government, they say that in 2020 itself they recorded about 33,000 earthquakes. Now you might say, how is that possible? 33,000 in one single year. And why do we not hear about the reason being that a lot of them are very low intensity earthquakes that people usually ignore. There were about 332 earthquakes of magnitude 4.0 and higher. That is on an average one every single day in Turkey. Turkey's location specifically, which is actually at the center of a lot of different tectonic plates, makes it very prone to these kind of activities. The boundaries between the tectonic plates are, called as faults. These fractures between the two blocks of rocks, and when movement takes place along these fractured lines, this is when the energy is released and earthquake actually takes place. Turkey's location specifically is on the Anatolian tectonic plate, which is wedged between the Eurasian and African plates. Over here, if you look at the north side, the minor Arabian plate restricts movement, and there's one fault line called the North Anatolian fault line. That is why Turkey's location, and more specifically southern part of Turkey, is very prone to highly devastating earthquakes. In 1999 also, this region saw two huge earthquakes of 7.4 and 7.0 magnitude on the Richter scale, which actually claimed the lives of 18,000 people. Right now, the official numbers coming in from Turkey have only reached 4,500, but if you believe the experts, the final figure could go even higher than the 18,000 recorded earlier. Now, why is it that this particular earthquake has been so devastating? As I told you, there have been multiple earthquakes in Turkey's history and they have been very frequent. However, if you look at the magnitude of this particular earthquake, this has been very high. Also, understand this, the magnitude which we actually use to measure the impact of the earthquakes, this is actually logarithmic, meaning that when we say there's an earthquake that was 6 on the Richter scale and then there was one that was 7, the difference between two is not 1, it is actually 10. So when you go one number higher, that means it is 10 times stronger as compared to one number lower. So that is why the earthquakes that we see of 6.5, 7, 7.5 are very dangerous. Since 2013, there have been only two earthquakes that have taken place around the world of this particular magnitude. In fact, this earthquake is seen to be the strongest since December of 1939. Since 1900, about 90,000 people have lost their lives in all these earthquakes, and Turkey has actually lost about $25 billion in terms of devastation, that is, physical devastation, and also the harm to the economy that will have. Now, the interesting part is, as you saw in case of India's Joshimath as well, that there have been experts who have warned the governments about these kind of things happening in the future. In 2021, there was in fact an expert panel that warned the Turkish government that there are about 2 lakh buildings in Istanbul that are at risk of damage. Why? Because their construction quality is not up to the mark, and even if a medium high earthquake hits the region, they might be under danger. Now, the safe part is that this earthquake primarily did not impact Istanbul, that is the capital city. However, it did impact many other parts of the country. There was an investigation into 1999 earthquake that also pointed out that buildings are just not adequate enough. Now, there are two ways to look at it. Number one, yes, earthquake is still something that we cannot predict even with all our technology. However, on the other hand, there are advancements in technology and design that can actually help you design buildings which would not have so much impact of earthquakes. If you have those kind of designs incorporated in your building, you can certainly save a lot of damage and you can certainly save a lot of lives. This is something that has not happened. This is what the experts are lamenting about. Now, as I told you earlier, with earthquakes and these kind of natural calamities, the problem is that in the first few days, you will never get an idea of how many people actually it has impacted. It has just been 1.5 day. The number has already hit 4,500. There have been so many people who are now being rescued every single minute from all these buildings that have fallen down. As the rescue work goes ahead, we will see a lot many people being evacuated. Hopefully, most of them would be alive, but it is also possible that a lot of them would have lost their lives when they were stuck in this building. So, usually with earthquakes, etc., you will only get to know the final count in the next week or so. WHO, in fact, has warned already that the number that we know right now, the death count in final can be about 8 times of that number. So, again, something that all of us are worried about. Now, one other thing that you have to understand is, as expected, most nations have announced that we will be helping Turkey, including India. Now, this is where there is something very interesting that you have to understand. India's foreign policy in the past few years has been extremely active when it comes to helping countries in need. Be it Nepal's earthquake, be it helping Maldives when their water purification plant was actually struck down, be it helping Turkey in this case. India has already announced that we will be sending our experts. We will be sending the NDRF teams that have been trained to carry out evacuation in these situations. We'll also be sending doctors, paramedics, medical supplies, and first lot has even landed in Turkey. Now, this is even more important if you consider the fact that India and Turkey do not have the best relations. When it comes to our important issues such as the Kashmir issue with Pakistan, Turkey has always sided with Pakistan. In fact, year after year, in the UN General Assembly also, Turkey has initiated the matter of Kashmir and has said that we want Article 370 to be brought back, speaking in terms of what Pakistan wants. In this context, when you see the Indian government coming out, being one of the first nations to announce this aid and even sending this aid, that actually signals that Indian foreign policy has come of age and we are behaving more like an elder brother, open to helping other nations, even if they might have some other ulterior motives. Hopefully, that will only improve the relationship between the two sides. We hope that most of the people who have to be evacuated are evacuated very, very fast, and hopefully, no one else loses their life in Turkey or Syria. Let's pray for their well being. This is it for today's big news. Thank you so much for watching.